Reddit Fresh.
Am I the idiot for calling my GF out on not being a vegan in front of her friend? My girlfriend has a vegetarian diet. For as long as I've known her, she's been a strict vegetarian, no meat at all. If we go to a restaurant and there's complimentary soup, she doesn't hesitate to flat out ask if there are meat products in the broth. Back in December, she met someone new where she works, a younger girl by the name of Sheila. Sheila is a vegan and doesn't even want to be around a place where cheese might exist. She's been chatting with my girlfriend, Michaela, frequently, and Michaela apparently has been telling Sheila and their other workmates that Michaela is a vegan. She's gone so far as to put on Facebook ridiculous posts such as, "Loving my vegan lifestyle. Salads for lunch. Being a vegan is great." The whole time she's making these comments, I'll see her eating cheese, drinking milk, etc. She's still keeping with her vegetarian diet, but is definitely not a vegan by any stretch of the term. I've pretty much tried to ignore it, even though it's been a little annoying hearing her talk about it, but I snapped yesterday at our Easter dinner, which Michaela insisted be held at our home. Michaela invited Sheila, who I honestly didn't like, because when she was looking at the dinner spread, she made comments about Michaela putting up with so many animal products, and I'd had enough. So when Michaela and Sheila struck up a conversation in which Sheila proceeded to insult our food once again, I interrupted, saying that it really isn't a problem for Michaela, given that she's not a vegan. In fact, I watched her eat an omelet just this morning. Michaela began to deny it and claim that I was lying, but Sheila looked a little upset that Michaela had been bullshitting her. It's genuinely lost on me how a person can get upset over their friend eating an egg, but then again, I am not on a diet. Long story short, Sheila is mad at Michaela for faking veganism for months, and now Michaela is upset with me because I should have kept my mouth shut. Am I the idiot for calling out my girlfriend on not being a vegan? Brief update. I talked to Michaela today and asked her what was going on and why she felt the need to lie about it. I told her I was sorry for upsetting her and causing an uncomfortable situation between her and a friend, and she told me that she genuinely liked speaking to Sheila, and while she hadn't expected her lie to get as far as it did, she wanted to gain a bond/friendship with Sheila. Apparently though, Sheila hasn't spoken to her outside of work-related topics. Not the idiot. Frankly, Sheila and Michaela were both the assholes here. Michaela for being so desperate to fit in, she lied about a crucial detail about herself as far as Sheila was concerned, but Sheila for just being an overall terrible house guest and insulting the food you were eating. I don't care if she's a vegan, there's still such a thing as manners and shutting your damn mouth. Everyone sucks here, you should have handled that better. Calling her out on her immature actions in front of someone is your own immature action here. There were plenty of opportunities to have that discussion in private, but you chose the dramatic route. But your GF actions were more of a red flag. Going as far as posting on social media and lying to someone so intently is concerning. It was at bare minimum, it was immature and at worst, more malicious. Either way, how did she think she wouldn't have been called out on that? Of course someone was going to say something. It's worth having a bigger conversation with her about why she would do that in the first place. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for not detailing my rules to my sister involving her undisciplined kids? I, 44, have a sister, 39, who has 2 kids, male 8 and 10M. I have 4 kids, and as you can imagine, my hands and time are full. My wife and I try to do our best, keeping our parenting skills in line with strict guidelines and understandable consequences. We put a lot of work into this and are quite happy with how our kids treat others and treat us. Most importantly, we have our own set of rules and parenting style that took years for our kids to learn and obey. I feel quite comfortable knowing what I can and can't trust them with. My sister and her husband, however, run a different parenting style. You probably know the style I'm about to describe. Phrases like "boys will be boys" and "oh, they're just kids" gets blurted out every time we notice their behavioral problems, followed by their minimal attempt at discipline. We both came from pretty strict parents, so it's quite strange to observe, but honestly, that's her life decision, not ours. However, when they come to our home, I have to constantly keep an extra eye out for what her 2 children are doing at almost every minute. If not, I'll catch them breaking any of the rules I've set for them. As you can imagine, they lack the responsibility to ever be left alone. Today, she and her boys are visiting with us outside. The house is locked, on purpose, except for the side door. I've made it clear to the boys and my sister that there is no need to go inside. Mind you, I sit at a point where I can still see this door. In fact, at one point, I personally caught one of them attempting to go in and had to reiterate the rule. I simply don't want them in there by themselves. We have bathrooms nearby and all the meals are prepared outside in the yard. It's nice outside as well. As expected, maybe 10 minutes later, as we're talking, in the corner of my eye, I can see the same child of hers head to the side door. I yell out over the backyard, "No! Not inside!" My sister, who was sitting a few feet from me, got up from her chair and approached me asking, "What's wrong? Why can't they go in? What did they do?" I responded calmly, "Oh, nothing wrong. I just don't want them in there. That's all." But that wasn't good enough. She repeated, "I want to know why they can't go in. What will happen?" I responded, "I just don't want them getting into things that I don't want them to mess with." She responded, "Like what? What exactly in the house so I can tell them?" I looked at her with a. She storms off to find her 2 children and I'm left in the backyard picking up the mess we left on the table. About 10 minutes later, I wrangled all of my children back to my home. You can tell my sister was crying, but trying to hide it as a smile. My wife noticed too. So here's my question, after years of learning the hard way, with both her kids and with her emotions. Am I the idiot for not going into details on why I don't want her kids in there? Update: neighbor was hosting the event. We share backyard space. Not the idiot. Why would they need to go inside if everything is set up outside and you've made clear you don't want anyone in your house? Your sister is trying to do the opposite of the strict upbringing that you guys had, but she's potentially failing her kids in the process, and that's not your problem. Not the idiot. We have friends with a loosely disciplined kid, and every time they come over the child ends up breaking something and we end up having to clean the mess while our friend comforts the child because they've scared themselves. The sound of a glass vase breaking was scary. We never say anything negative to the child at all. It's become a source of stress for us TBH, and I've started suggesting we meet outdoors to avoid this. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for leaving my business to my protege instead of my children? I, male 58, have 2 kids, John, male 32, and Susan, 29F, and I started a business back in my late 20s after they were born. I have been growing it for the better part of 3 decades. However, my wife and I agreed that we have more than enough for me to retire, and so I am. Some backstory: back when John was in high school, I gave him a job at my business, and soon after he started, he asked if I could give his friend Sam, male 32, now 17 when he started, a job as well. John was not interested in the work and quit after 4 months, and I will wholeheartedly admit that that was very painful at the time, but Sam loved the job. He continued to work throughout college, where he went into the same field as me, and I gave him a promotion when he completed his studies. Sam is very much my protege, and I see him as my second son. John studied finance and, after working at some other places, asked me if I could give him a job. I did, and he's extremely good at what he does. I love the fact that I get to work with both of them. I took my wife, John, Susan, and Sam out to dinner last week to tell them my plan for retirement. Sam will take my place and own 60%, while John and Susan would each get 20%. I have never seen John so furious. He asked how I could choose Sam over him, my own flesh and blood. He also said he's the one who studied running businesses and that he should be the one in charge. I told him that he has only worked for me for a few years and already quit once, whereas Sam has been working for me for 15 years, knows all the clients, the products, and the production team, and has their respect. I asked if he had my respect, and I told him, of course, he's the best at what he does, but that doesn't mean he's the best fit for being the boss. My wife and Susan tried de-escalating the situation, but John left in a huff and hasn't been talking to anyone but Susan since. I know John's hurt, but Sam is the better choice since he's been working directly under me for years and knows the ins and outs better than anyone but me. I've tried talking to John and apologizing, but he won't let me. Am I the idiot? Edit. Some people keep asking why I gave Susan the same amount and what her relation to the business is. She's worked off and on as a contractor and, especially since she has kids of her own, I wanted to give her some financial stability. It's the same with John, as he's never expressed any interest in running the place and came back to work for me because he got laid off and had a hard time finding another job. I wanted to ensure some financial stability for him while making sure Sam was the one in charge. Edit 2. First, a point of clarity. Nothing has actually been signed yet and I'm still in charge. Susan came to the house and we just had a long discussion. She's been talking with John and she told me he feels like this is me telling John that Sam is my real son. I asked her if she felt the same way. She doesn't, but she sees how it looks to John. I then asked her what she thinks I should do, and she told me I should lower her share and give it to John. She said he would rather give him the money than watch him disappear from the family. I also asked if she knew whether he actually wanted and or expected to run the business. And as far as she knew, he didn't, and was surprised at how poorly he reacted. Before she left, I asked her to try and get him to have a conversation about this, and she told me, sure, but don't count on it being soon. Edit 3. I am sick of all the comments saying I don't care about my kids. My wife doesn't see it that way. My daughter doesn't see it that way. Yes, I wasn't always present in their lives, and yes, my business did take priority at times, but I did my absolute damnedest to be there as much as I possibly could. I made time for graduations, sports events, and other big milestones and events as best I could, and I was there for most of them. I may not have been present at all times, but I did my best to try to be. Also, Sam is not a complete stranger. Update. Susan called this morning and told me John is willing to talk this out today at lunch. Just me and him. I'm going to make a list of talking points based on common things I've read here. To everyone saying I should have talked to lawyers/accountants, I agree in hindsight that that would have been best, but I wanted the three of them to know first that I was retiring and my plans as I saw them. Big. Update. I talked with John for about 2 hours over lunch and things went good. I think. I started out by apologizing to him for springing it on him without warning and that he is my son and he has a say in this. And the first thing I asked him was if he wanted/expected to run the business. He said no to both. He recognizes that Sam is better prepared and he prefers the work he already does. However, he feels that this is me officially saying that Sam is my real son and all he is a number cruncher. When he quit originally, it was because he saw me taking Sam under my wing and was jealous. And his lack of interest in the business made him feel guilty for not being the son I wanted. He said he knows I care about and love him, but it's felt like he's taken a back seat to Sam for the past 15 years. I asked him what I could do to make it up to him, and he said he didn't know and can't move past this for now. I asked if he thinks he ever could. He doesn't know. Then he asked me whether I held him quitting against him, since he always felt like I did. After reading so many comments here saying I wasn't sure, and that's when I showed him this post and told him I might have, but I don't know. I was hurt and put effort into Sam because I wanted to connect with someone about the business, and that maybe, subconsciously, I did hold it against, and that I was sorry for how I treated him regardless. He asked me for some time off and I told him that his job here is always guaranteed and takes as much time as he needs. Before we left, I told him that I'll give him space, but he needs to know that I'm there for him if he needs it. Not the idiot. If you were just some random owner employing John and Sam and did the same thing, John couldn't seriously think he was more qualified. He's not thinking about the success of the business, which is a sign that you made the correct decision. The one who goes off pouting is not owner material. You're the idiot for the way you announced this news. You should have respected the people involved, particularly your son, enough to tell them each privately. I can't imagine how you created a successful business when you have this little insight into how people think and how they would react to this kind of news. Instead, you created a public scene that no doubt embarrassed Sam as well as your family and will ultimately make it harder for Sam to keep running the company successfully. Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for exposing my sister after surgery? I, female 30, have a sister who's highly irresponsible and dependent on men emotionally. She unfortunately had an ectopic pregnancy and lost the child. Her ex, who has been supportive in the process, was there next to her. They broke up shortly after she found out she was pregnant, and I guess they got back together when I arrived at the hospital. While she was sleeping, I talked to him to see what their relationship status was. He said it was complicated with a weird look. So, I told him, "Hey, if you are here under obligation, it's fine, I'm here now. I'll be with her." He said it's okay in a very sunken mood. And then he opened up to me. I found out that she lied to him that this is her first failed pregnancy, and then lied that my parents refused to take her in as well as I. I also knew she's purposely got pregnant thinking that she could get him to stay. So I realized just how she manipulated him just so he felt guilty enough to take her back. So I exposed her because what she was doing is so wrong on so many levels. I didn't know she was fake sleeping. She looked at me with anger and told me to get out. I tried talking to, but she said she didn't need anyone and that I was wrong in telling her business. And again yelled to get out. She said some hateful things to me as well. I left. She really made me realize just how low she could go. And it made me sick. So am I the idiot for exposing her? Update: I understand I was wrong with the timing. And I have apologized to her for that, but I told her I don't apologize for what I said. And I made it clear that no one is obligated to help her on her whim. And she can no longer use me or lie about me to make herself the victim. I know she is going through a hard time, but she pushed away everyone who ever wanted to help her. I will no longer be the person who rushes by her side. I told the same thing to my parents. I don't want to be involved in anyone's issues. I work through mine alone without any help, and she's an adult. She can make her own decisions. You're the idiot. The whole "she trapped him with pregnancy" thing, I call BS on that. And ectopic pregnancies can be deadly. Dealing with one is an emergency. Organs surrounding the fallopian tubes can be permanently damaged, and a woman is at risk of bleeding to death. It's a big deal, big enough that your sister may never have children going forward. What she needs at this time is support from her family and the man who fathered her child, regardless of whether or not the relationship continues past this emergency. He does bear some responsibility for this pregnancy. It ain't all on your sister. The way you speak of your sister is very judgmental throughout your entire post. Everyone sucks here, sister because use pregnancy to keep man. Kid is not a toy. You because exposing your sister medical history without permission. And yes, BF is AH2 because he is adult, and if he didn't want to have baby with someone, then he shouldn't have unprotected S***. He could have used protection.